You know that feeling, right? You're watching TV and the picture just glitches, or your Wi Fi drops out for no reason right in the middle of something important. It's super frustrating. And a lot of the time, the culprit is this invisible force that we are going to unmask today. So, for this explainer, we're diving deep into a fantastic report all about the common sources of this stuff called radio frequency interference. Now, this is part 4 of a 10-part tutorial from the real pros over at RFI Detectives, which is part of Virtualization Options LLC. They did all the hard work, so let's jump right into what they found. So, let's just ask the big question right out of the gate. What in the world is messing with your electronics? It might feel like it's totally random, but trust me, there's almost always a logical and sometimes kind of surprising reason for it. And like I said, the folks from RFI Detectives are going to be our guide. These guys are specialists at hunting down these invisible annoyances, so we're going to use their expertise to crack this case wide open. Okay, first things first. We need to actually understand what we're up against. It's time to unmask the culprit behind all this electronic chaos. So, the official name for our problem is radio frequency interference, or RFI for short. To put it simply, it's just a bunch of unwanted radio signals that are getting in the way of the signals your devices actually need. This is exactly what causes that annoying static, that glitchy TV picture, or that Wi-Fi that just disappears. The report has this absolutely brilliant way to picture this. Imagine a perfectly calm pond, and you drop one little stone in. You get these nice, clean ripples, right? Well, that's like one electronic device. Now, imagine throwing in a couple dozen stones all at once. The water just turns into this chaotic jumble of waves crashing into each other. That's basically your modern home, packed with electronics all making their own noisy ripples. So, to break it all down, RFI is unwanted electronic noise. It comes from pretty much anything you plug into a wall. Your phone charger, your fancy new LED lights, you name it. And what does it affect? Well, these days, that's just about everything that sends or receives a signal. All right, so now that we know what RFI is, it's time to meet the usual suspects. Let's open up the official rogues gallery and find out which common offenders are probably lurking in your house right now. Suspect number 1, and maybe the most common of all, is the good old phone charger. Come on, we've all got a drawer just overflowing with these things, right? They power our phones, our tablets, and a million other little gadgets. And the report is really blunt about this. It says cheap, poorly designed chargers are some of the absolute worst offenders out there. The little power circuits inside them are switching on and off thousands of times a second. And if they're not filtered properly, they just blast out radio noise everywhere. Okay, get ready for a throwback. Here's a suspect you probably did not see coming. If you still have an old VCR plugged in somewhere in your house, even if it's just sitting there collecting dust, it could be a major RFI source. And this is the wildest part. They cause problems even when they're turned off. The report explains that a lot of old VCRs had these really poorly designed power cords that literally turn into antennas, just broadcasting electronic noise from the power supply all over the room. Crazy, right? All right, next up in our lineup are the cables connecting everything. Yep, those simple wires running from your TV to your computer can actually be a huge part of the problem. See, the reason is that cheap, unshielded cables are basically two-way streets for interference. They can broadcast noise from your devices out into the room, and they can also act like an antenna, sucking up noise from other things and feeding it right back into your electronics. They're like RFI superhighways. And for our final suspect, let's look up, that's right, those super energy-efficient LED bulbs that have replaced all our old incandescents. They are a very modern and a very, very common source of RFI. You see, inside every single one of those LED bulbs is a tiny power circuit, and it's basically a miniature version of the same noisy circuit that's inside a cheap phone charger. Now, one bulb might not be a huge deal, but when your entire house is lit up with dozens of them, all that noise adds up and can create a really big interference problem. So, we figured out what the problem is, and we've rounded up the usual suspects. Now, we get to the fun part. Let's get you geared up with the tools and the know-how you need to become an RFI detective in your very own home. And you're not going to believe this, but your most powerful weapon in this fight is not some expensive high-tech piece of equipment. Nope. It's simple, it's low-tech, and there's a good chance you have one sitting in a drawer right now. Any guesses? It is a battery-powered AM radio. That's it. Seriously, According to the RFI Detectives Report, this is the single best tool you can have for hunting down interference in your house. And the process could not be easier. First, and this is important, make sure it's running on batteries so it doesn't get interference from your house's own wiring. Second, tune it to a spot on the AM dial where there's no station, just that classic static sound. Then you just walk around your house. As you get closer to a source of RFI, that static is going to get a lot louder. It's like a Geiger counter for electronic noise. So, once you've found the offender with your trusty radio, the fix is often really cheap and easy. You can swap out those flimsy cables for properly shielded ones. You can get these things called ferrite cores. They're little magnetic cylinders that just clamp right onto your cables and choke off the noise. And of course, as we talked about, invest in good quality name brand chargers that have the proper filtering built right in. And that about wraps it up. You are now officially equipped with the knowledge to go on the hunt. The next time your tech starts acting up, you'll know what to do. So I guess the only question left is this: what invisible noise is hiding in your home?